Okay, so here's what you need to know if you need to know about Before You Were Mine by Carol Ann Duffy. Let's have a look at an overview to start off with. So this is basically a poem about the poet looking at her mum and imagining what her mum was like before she was born, right? Her mum was a lot more exciting in her youth than the mum that Carol Ann Duffy knew, and she really wants to get to know this person that the mum was before. Okay, so let's have a look at it a little bit in terms of quotations. If we have a look at number 1, she's thinking about her mum and some of her friends. She says, "The three of you bend from the waist, holding each other or your knees and shriek at the pavement." This is clearly a mum who enjoys herself and likes to enjoy herself in sort of 1950s Glasgow, which is where Carol Ann Duffy grew up. We'll talk about that in the context a little bit later on. But the mum is a very exciting figure in her youth, right? Quotation number 2, "The thought of me doesn't occur in the ballroom with the 1,000 eyes, the fizzy movie tomorrows the right walk home could bring." Now in this, her mum is attending like a dance where basically all of the girls stand on one side, all the boys stand on the other side, and the boys are kind of looking towards the girls and thinking about asking them to go and dance, right? This is how young people would enjoy themselves back in the day, okay? Now what we're talking about here, fizzy movie tomorrows, is her Carol Ann Duffy's mum as a young sort of teenager going out and imagining this fizzy movie tomorrow with one of the boys, looking over at one of the boys and thinking about all of the kind of romantic things that could happen, like it's in some sort of film, like a fizzy movie. It's exciting and all that kind of thing. And she talks about here the right walk home. So if she goes home with this boy, what could then happen? What she doesn't think about with this boy when she's thinking about the romantic involvements that she could have with him is the possibility of children, right? Which obviously is one of the possible consequences of romance, right? But that's exactly what did happen after one of these kind of right walk homes, right? She met somebody and that's how Carol Ann Duffy came to be, okay? Now, when we get to quotation number 3, "The decade ahead of my loud, possessive yell was the best one, eh?" Now she's talking to her mum and saying, right, the decade leading up to when Carol Ann Duffy was born was the most exciting part of your life. You were this exciting person who went out to dances and all of this kind of thing. But once Carol Ann Duffy is born, right, the baby has a loud, possessive yell. Once this baby starts crying, the mum can't go out and do all the things that she used to do. She has to look after the baby, and the baby possesses her, which is where we get our title Before You Were Mine, right? So the baby owns the mum and changes the mum, makes her not as exciting as she was before. Right. If we have a look at quotation number 4 down at the bottom, "I wanted the bold winking girl in Portobello." Right. Now this is saying that she wanted to get to know this exciting person who the mum was, but she never quite got to know her because she had lots of mum responsibilities by the time Carol Ann Duffy was born. And what it leads to is quotation number 5, "I remember my hands in those high-heeled red shoes, relics." Now if you look at this bit of imagery of relics, right, a relic is something that you might dig up on an archaeological dig, something that's very precious that you find, and this is tiny Carol Ann Duffy going into her mum's wardrobe and finding red high-heeled shoes, something that her boring mum would never wear, but the exciting mum in the past would. And Carol Ann Duffy, as a little toddler, is putting her hands into the shoes and looking at them, kind of marvelling at them, thinking, wow, my mum was this exciting person before, and now she's not, right? If we put this into a little bit of context, one of the quotations we've got here on line 5 is Marilyn. Now, this is a reference to Marilyn Monroe, and here's an exceptionally famous image of Marilyn Monroe, the film star of the era of her mum's youth. Okay, we've got a very, very glamorous person, but somebody who had a very dark sort of personal life. And there's a sense here that there was something dark going on in the mum's life as well. Okay, something which, even though the surface of her life was kind of exciting, there was something underneath it that wasn't quite right, and we get all this from the kind of Marilyn image. Also, the kind of context is women at the time in the Glasgow of the 1950s acting in this way, in the way that the mum does in a kind of exciting way, would be looked down on, would be slightly sort of unusual. And we get that from line sort of 9, "Before you were mine, your ma stands at the close with a hiding for the late one, you reckon it's worth it." Now this is Carol Ann Duffy's gran who is punishing the mum for going out and being as rebellious as she is. But even though she is exceptionally rebellious, Carol Ann Duffy looks back at this and thinks, actually that was the right way to be, and she was pushing against some of the stereotypes of the time.